So now that we have the first story that's been mashed into this film out the way, let's talk about the second story that's been shoved in here. The movie about Spike and his mother overcoming a great journey on their way to salvation and Spike slowly becoming the man he needs to be in order to survive it. After hearing about a doctor that might be able to help them, and with the understanding that his dad doesn't see the journey as worth it, Spike takes matters into his own hands, getting gear to prepare for himself and his mother, causing a distraction that allows him to get out into the mainland, and then they make their way to the doctor, overcoming the infected, joining up with Erik and ending up at the train platform where Kelson is. Now, before we talk about the actual journey, let's talk about what he saw on his previous journey out with Jamie. Throughout the entire part of this film, the only thing we saw in this scene was the countryside, with forests and big open fields. And the only building encountered was an old farmhouse that doesn't seem to be near any other buildings. And when they look out at the top of this house and in the direction of the fire, once again it's just surrounded by countryside, with no urban structures able to be seen. They also don't seem to have travelled too far from Holy Island. This is Spike's first time on the mainland and he's a young child, meaning Jamie shouldn't want to take him too far out, and Spike seems to be able to keep up with him throughout this trip, so I doubt he travelled too far or he'd be exhausted. There's also the fact that by the time they have to evacuate the house and get back to the settlement, they seem to do so quite quickly and there's still several hours of darkness afterwards. So despite them being sent running in the middle of the night, there's still plenty of time before dawn arrives. We also see when they're in the attic that the Alpha has been watching them from the west side, as they watch it looking at them and the sun is setting off to its left. This would make sense as later on the opposite side of the house, Jamie spots one of the NATO boats patrolling in the ocean, which would be east of them as that is where the closest ocean is, back towards their home. Spike then goes to the other side of the house and he sees the fire a few miles off in the distance. Based on this, I would say they travelled less than 10 miles from Holy Island, mostly heading west, southwest if they go in this direction shown here and keep following it. And in order to reach Kelson, Spike would need to keep going west, which seems to only be a few miles from this farmhouse. Based on this map I've got, with the red dot being the causeway entrance, the house they were camped in should be somewhere around this edge of this circle. And Kelson's location should be somewhere in this circle around the west part of it. Compare that to the rest of the northeast area and you see that this area takes up very little geography. Now, Spike and Isla begin their trip, and as soon as they reach the monument, the entire landscape just changed compared to the last time they were there. With Jamie, Spike was just looking at plain fields and countryside, and yet when Isla is here, for some reason there's just an entire village that is materialized out of nowhere that was in none of the establishing shots from before. Now, usually this can be excused as maybe it's just Isla seeing this stuff, but not only is there no surreal camera work or effects used like they do later in the movie, but this is during one of Isla's more clear moments where she is panicking over the fact they're on the mainland, Jamie isn't with them and they're gonna see a doctor.
We can't be on the mainland, it's too dangerous,
So it genuinely seems like a village has just been placed here from nowhere. On their way, they go through several fields before somehow arriving at the Sycamore Gap, one of the most famous historical landmarks in the UK. It also happens to be 70 miles away from Holy Island, and considering that this montage is implied to be them travelling in just one day, there's no way they could be anywhere close to this place at the speed they're going. On top of this, they should have come across Kelson's camp ages ago, as his encampment wasn't too far from the farmhouse. But no, there's still a long way to go before this happens. The only thing that still makes sense here is the fact they're still travelling south, southwest, west area, and that's about it. Now, they keep travelling before camping in a old monastery as Isla needs to rest. During their stay, they have a small bonding moment before Isla goes to bed and Spike stays up to keep watch. However, he ends up falling asleep and is only saved because the infected is too stupid to remember what food is and what a shoelace is, as well as Isla conveniently having a moment of clarity just before he gets bit. The two begin their journey again, and while they do, the NATO soldiers arrive after their boat sinks, with Samson watching them from up high. And let me tell you, what a bunch of morons these soldiers are. The soldiers in command in 28 days and weeks later might have had the worst security measures known to man, and some of them might have been rookies, but at least they were fucking trying not to throw themselves into the meat grinder. The same cannot be said for this lot. Now, considering how delicate this entire situation is, you would presume that NATO would only have competent, experienced soldiers patrolling around the country, as they need to have the ability to kill innocent people who are trying to flee, and understand the risk should they become stranded on the mainland. You aren't going to have rookies assigned to this deployment. And yet, right off the bat, there's so many things they do here that lead me to believe they've never even seen combat before, never mind had enough experience to be chosen for this job. It appears that as soon as their boat arrived on shore, they were attacked by the infected. Now, I've already gone over the convenience of Samson knowing these soldiers were arriving there and then somehow knew they would run into the service tunnel so he could ambush them, but at the end of the day, this is 8 soldiers armed with assault rifles, who have their back to a body of water the infected cannot cross and clear lines of sight to take on the infected. And instead of just keeping the tactical position, they decide to jump down into the reservoir spillway area, where not only do they not have long distance sights to take them down, but they can now be ambushed by the infected jumping on top of them. After jumping down this pretty high fall in full military gear, surprisingly one of them sprains their ankle and needs assistance, meaning that 2 of these soldiers are now useless and cannot help in the fight. They then get this massive horde of infected following them in this space, and for some reason only 1 soldier tries to fight them off, and even then he only fires a few small bursts before running again. Usually I hate when people with guns in horror movies just spray their weapons around, but in this case that's probably the best thing to do. These are humans, they will die with a few bullet wounds, especially in the chest area. Spraying into this crowd would significantly cut down the horde, and yet he just takes 3 or 4 of them down and then he keeps running. Unsurprisingly, an infected jumps and bites on the wounded man and his helper, turning them infected. The soldier at the back then proceeds to stand there and watch them turn. If he's hesitant to attack them because they're his friends, I understand that, but there's a horde of infected running around him and he doesn't bother attacking them either, he just stands there like a lemon. Side note, but look how bad this choreography is. You've got this massive horde of infected right next to an uninfected person and none of them try and take him down until after he shoots his friend. Like, what the fuck is supposed to be going on in this scene? Now, as mentioned, you have 8 soldiers in this scene, cut down to 5 because the rear guard, the helper and the injured man all get killed or infected. And yet when we cut back to the group, there's now only 3 soldiers, who again shoot 2 infected before running away when they could spray into them and do a lot more damage. So 2 people just teleported out the scene for no reason. Seriously, I have no idea where these soldiers disappeared to, especially as they were all clustered together and these 3 had a bit of distance from the infected, so the rest should have as well. They enter this service tunnel and 1 infected follows them. No idea where this massive horde has gone. I would understand if Samson told them to back off as they listened to his commands, but he's not with them. He's read the script and camping in this service tunnel to ambush them, so they decide to stop attacking them because I guess they got bored. They decide to not try and make sure the gate is locked so no one can get to them, and then they go down the service tunnel. Instead of using any sort of tactics or formations, they all stand in a line with no one watching behind them. You know, that place the infected just attacked them from. This means that later, when Samson does decide to attack them, they all turn around to investigate a noise as no one has been placed on the rear guard, allowing him to get close and attack them. As Samson takes hold of the leader, the other guy's gun has jammed and Erik decides to just not do anything. The other guy doesn't bother to pull out a sidearm and Erik just stops and stares before running away. The other guy also just sits there slapping his gun instead of trying to run away, which allows Samson to kill him as well. Erik runs to the entrance where 2 of the infected are, with the rest of the horde apparently running home to splash each other for some reason. So after seeing the infected in their home, we then cut back to Spike and Isla, who in the distance spot the Angel of the North. The Angel of the North that is all the way over here, which means that they stopped going southwest and came all the way over here for no reason whatsoever. What should have been a 20-mile trip at most has now become nearly 100 miles and they still haven't reached their destination yet. On top of this, based on the positioning of the Angel, they are either approaching it this way, which means they're going in the right direction but I've got no idea why they went from here to here, or they're approaching it this way, which makes sense based on where they just came from, but they're going in the completely wrong direction. The geography is just fucked in this film, in case you haven't noticed. They then get attacked by the horde and flee to a gas station diner area, where despite having been abandoned for decades, has become so airtight the gas has become trapped inside the building, causing them and the horde to struggle to breathe inside. But it's okay because Erik somehow teleports on top of the building and ignites the gas, killing the infected. And yes, he does teleport because he wasn't on top of the building in this shot. I will say I'm not going to critique the actual gas of the explosion. Heat rises upwards, so I guess depending on the gas, maybe the explosion would only go one way, something like that. So I'm not really going to critique this part, even though some people seem to think it's really ridiculous. The two of them are joined by Erik, who is now condemned to the mainland, and after having a little moment to talk about the outside world, they finally spot the fire of Dr. Kelson. I can't even give you a rough estimate of where this camp is supposed to be now. Before I could pinpoint it to somewhere within this circle, but now it could be literally anywhere around this area. They take a small break before coming across a pregnant infected that chooses to accept Isla's help and give birth over attacking them, and somehow the baby isn't infected. I don't mean that the baby is a carrier, like with Alice and Andy. I mean it doesn't have any signs of infection whatsoever. Which means one of two things. Either on top of turning the infected into Wolverine and Peter Griffin, the infection now mutates to wipe itself out and make people immune to it. Which really doesn't make sense because a virus is a living thing and wants to survive. So creating an infected that is immune to its effects and cannot be carried to other people is the single worst thing this virus could do for itself. Or the virus didn't try and make the baby immune, but instead...
the magic of the placenta. I'd wondered if that might happen.
This is a baby created by an infected sperm and an infected egg that was held in an infected womb for 9 months and is now covered in infected blood and fluids. One drop does this. If this baby isn't immune, then it should be infected now considering how powerful this virus is. I mean, it's literally drenched in the stuff. Erik then shoots the infected mother after it seems to try and attack them, before threatening to shoot the baby despite Spike and Isla's pleas not to. He decides that the best way to get clean shots on his target is to back all the way up to the other side of the train, under a convenient hole that allows Samson to grab him. And of course, Erik doesn't try and aim his weapon at him, he just flails around until he's killed like the rest of his stupid team. The two of them run from Samson, who takes several body shots with no long-term injury whatsoever because, as I've said, the alphas are just Wolverine now. He nearly gets them before they get saved by Kelson, who just so happens to be in the area, I guess. And yeah, that is the second story in this movie, and it's filled with a journey that not only doesn't match up with things established in the first part of the film, but geographically makes no sense whatsoever. It also has a team of some of the most laughable soldiers I've ever seen in a piece of media, and a baby whose entire existence raises so many questions and not in a good way. But I'm sure the third story in this movie will make up for it, right? Thanks for watching, lads and lasses. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, subscribing and checking out some of my other videos. Sharing always helps, and if you're feeling really generous, please consider my Patreon or YouTube membership. I also have a Twitter and occasionally I do live streams. But most of all, I just hope you had a great day and hopefully I will see you in the next video.